Ladies and gentlemen, the crime of the century. The Trump administration working with Trump's FBI, DOJ, and the House Oversight Committee are investigating fraud. They're investigating the swamp. They are investigating treasonous acts done against the American people by the Democrats and the rhinos. Well, what has just been uncovered and released for us, the American public, to know, to read, to see with our own very own eyes is, well, simply put, shocking. See, the Biden auto pen ran the government, released killers from prison. When Trump says, look, guys, the auto pen was the president for 4 years, he's not just saying it just to say something. He's stating a fact, ladies and gentlemen, and we're about to get into that. As you all know, I'm in the middle of a big several state moves, so my background is a little bit different for the next foreseeable future, but I'm going to keep bringing you the truth. We're going to keep speaking truth to power, exposing Democrats and swamp creatures, and spreading, truth to America. I want to restore dignity. Do me a huge favor really quickly. Smash that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. On this show, we love Trump, we love the Lord Jesus Christ, and we love America. Leave me a comment. Where are you tuning in from today? And really quickly, before we continue, today's sponsor, and like always, Verity Metals. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for gold, silver, platinum to protect your IRAs, 401ks, your cash, your retirement plans, and everything in between, Verity Metals is the company for you. Patriots, people of faith, Trump supporters located out of Glendale, Arizona. Call or text 480-717-9081 or 888-328-6105. Mention me for additional gold and silver on your next order. Links are down below in the description. Let's get it. Now, first thing what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to play you a video that came out about 5 days ago. And then we actually finally have an update on the situation.
We have all of the details over at justthenews.com. And when you wake up in the morning, you're going to have a lot more details. This time about what really went on with the auto pen and Joe Biden. For the first time, we're seeing documents produced from the National Archives that show that the Biden White House lawyers believe that Joe Biden had an obligation to personally sign pardons, that he may have designated decisions for signatures on things like legislation and pardons to other people. Didn't even show up in the room. No record of him being in the room when certain things were signed. This is explosive new documents. It's the first time anyone's going to make them public. We'll have them on the site when you wake up tomorrow morning. But we're going to keep you up to speed. Keep a close eye on it. These are bombshell documents. Even surprised me about what was really being discussed behind the scenes at the Biden White House. All of this dug out of the National Archives, and also good work by the White House counsel's office for President Trump, who has its own review of this ongoing and found some of these documents. Man, we're going to have all that tomorrow. Big deal.
So this came out a few days ago. Just the News said they did a FOIA request to the National Archives about the Joe Biden meetings, talking about the pardons. Who are we going to pardon? When are we going to pardon? Well, the article came out, and these details are absolutely shocking, coming from Just the News. Bombshell memos. Biden aides believed he should sign pardons by hand. He outsourced approval to the vice president, which is illegal. The new internal memos from the Biden White House are the first glimpse into the Trump administration's probe into the former president's mental decline and the abundant use of his auto pen signature. Internal memos obtained by Just the News shows resident, thief, liar, old man who falls upstairs and shake hands with dead people and gets lost on a 12x6 stage. That's who we're talking about. Internal memos obtained by Just the News show President Joe Biden's aides believed at the beginning of his administration that he had an obligation to personally sign official presidential actions, including pardons, and chronicle how the former president later outsourced clemency decisions to then Vice President Kamala Harris. The memos were gathered as part of a sweeping review by the Trump White House into Biden's use of auto pen signatures for official business, an inquiry that now raises new questions about whether the former president actually attended 4 meetings late in his term dedicated to making clemency decisions. Those clemency decisions included preemptive pardons for the Biden family members, as well as commutations for federal death row sentences. The National Archives and Records Administration told the White House counsel's office that, quote, "We did not find specific meeting notes that clearly mention or note that the president was present, end of quote, for any of the 4 meetings, according to the documents reviewed by Just the News." So there were 4 meetings, right, to decide whether somebody should get a pardon or not. This is like the last days of the Joe Biden horrendous, horrible, pathetic, embarrassing presidency. 4 meetings happened. Biden wasn't at any of them. Who decides if someone gets a pardon? The president. He wasn't there when the decisions were being made. So not only was he not there to make the decisions, then the auto pen was used to sign those pardons. You see why Trump now, and for those who don't know, last week, Trump replaced Joe Biden's presidential portrait with a portrait of the auto pen. So it goes on the big wall of presidents from first to modern. It goes, Bill Clinton, Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, Trump, the auto pen, Trump 2.0. President Biden's decision memo on commuting federal death row sentences is unmarked, and NARA cannot find a version indicating President Biden's approval, the document added. The office of Joe and Jill Biden did not respond to a request for comment sent through its contact page. The Pew Research Center reported that Biden, quote, granted more acts of clemency than any previous chief executive on record, and noted that overall, Biden granted 4,245 acts of clemency during his 4-year tenure in the White House. In June, President Donald Trump ordered the White House counsel to lead an investigation into whether any senior administration officials had, quote, conspired to deceive the public about the former president's mental state and exercise his authority and responsibility. Trump then specifically directed the investigators to probe the use of the auto pen on official documents or clemency actions. The White House investigation uncovered an early memo that shows a day one administration policy to use an, quote, original hand signature for pardons had been abandoned by Biden's final year in office, when the auto pen was frequently used to sign orders as part of the president's prolific clemency spree. This is what we mean when we say the further we got into Joe Biden's residency, the worse his mental capacity got. Because the final year, he never signed anything with his own hand. For the final year of Joe Biden's presidency, it was the auto pen. Every single thing, every executive order, every law, everything was the auto pen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they're all being investigated. They're all being exposed. They're all being, sooner or later, we're going to know the truth. Sooner or later, accountability is going to come. Sooner or later, we will see the truth. Right now, we are going through, the slow steps of investigations, the slow steps of figuring out what happened. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there's a saying that lies travel fast, but justice takes time. Now, we went, and think about this, we went from a president who didn't know he's alive. We went through a president that fell upstairs, not downstairs, shook hands with dead people, who promoted disgusting things for our children, promoted perversion, promoted racism, segregation. But look at our president now, and I'm going to wrap it up with this video. Let me go back here. I shared this earlier today. This is our president this morning talking about America, talking about Christ, talking about the Bible.
America has always been a nation that believes in the power of prayer. And we will never apologize for our faith, ever, ever, never, never. We will never surrender our God-given rights. We will defend our liberties, our values, our sovereignty, and we will defend our freedom. And with the help of amazing faith communities across the land, so many are represented with us today, we will truly make this the golden age of America. That's what we're doing. We're in a golden age. We're at the very beginning of a golden age. So much progress has been made in the last 8 months. Progress like nobody's ever seen before. They're writing about it. They're actually saying it. They've never seen anything like what's happened in the last 8 months. And together we will make our country greater, stronger, more united, and more faithful than ever before. America has always been a nation that believes in the power of.
So we went from a president who was arresting Christians, who was arresting Catholics, who was arresting grandmas and grandpas for standing up for their children and grandchildren. We went from a president who put trannies to tell us about our health. We went from a president who despised God, who despised everything good and loved everything evil. But the Bible tells us, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and cry out to me, then I will heal their land. Ladies and gentlemen, between 2021 and 2024, I've seen more churches come together and pray for our country than ever before. I've seen the walls of denominations break. I've seen the walls of, religious faith break, and people who came together, not because of denomination, not because of anything, but their love of God and their love of country, to pray. And guess what? We're healing right now. And part of that healing process, I believe, is accountability for the crooks, for the communists, for those evil people that call themselves the Democrat Party. Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I'll keep you updated. Make sure to subscribe. God bless you. Share the video with a friend or two. God bless. I will see you soon. I'm out.